Today I'll be answering some questions which have been put to me many times before. And after that I'll continue on, and together, jointly, we'll go on to answer them. The questions are these. Why do you live in a cave? And what is the purpose for you living in a cave? Actually, I like these questions quite a lot. They're questions that are important for all humanity. They incline in the direction of the profound. They're questions that come to the heart of the matter. They probe into the human predicament. If we can deal with these questions properly, if we can get a hold of them and deal with them fully, I feel that at the end of this conversation, this dialogue between spiritual brothers and sisters where you and I are both participating, I feel that at the end of this, there'll be enough energy generated to stimulate you to proceed along on your own path of spiritual progress. And that's the important thing. That's the reason we're meeting here today. What we're talking about is essential. It's important for all human beings to understand what our priorities are. What is it we're here to do? Why do we live as we do? Why do we live in the spaces that we live in? And we have to proceed from where we're at, don't we? Our next step begins right here. A journey of 1,000 miles begins in the next step. We proceed and we take off. Our point of departure is right here, right now. We can't depend on a future, even if there was such a thing, and there isn't. We really don't know what the circumstances in the future will be. We can't tell what it'll be 5 months from now, or 5 weeks, or even 5 minutes from now. We don't know how our health will be. We don't know how our life circumstances will be. So if we're going to live our life in a spiritual way, we begin it right now in the present moment. We don't procrastinate. We begin from right here. And it doesn't really matter where you're starting from. Some of you perhaps are watching this from inside a federal prison in Kentucky, or a hospital ward in Montana, or a condominium in Florida, or a penthouse in Tahiti or Rio de Janeiro. Luxury isn't a very suitable or fortunate circumstance either. But we begin from right here, right now. This is the point of departure. So for the first moments of this dialogue, in this documentary we're having together, in this old age questions using new age format, I'd like to invite you to look at my cave. Some people will call it a cave, and some people will call it a sanctuary. Those with religious inclinations or spiritual perspectives will see this as a sanctuary. And I think perhaps you will too at the end of this short time we have together. So, if you will, kindly come and follow me along. When we come to look at a cave, first thing we see is that it's a completely natural formation. It's a gift, really, a gift of Mother Nature. And because it's a gift of Mother Nature, it's ideal for contemplation, an ideal setting, an ideal situation for reflection, for seeing how the mind is and who we are really. A cave, a forest, or a desert draws out of us a sense of undercurrents, subconscious streams of energy which are crucial to our understanding of the dilemma called living a life, which we're all involved in, like it or not. People have sought out these kinds of places since this species stepped out beyond mere animal survival and evolved into what we now call humanity. People have sought out these spaces like these, spaces which evoke the sacred and produce a sense, a feeling of radical solitude. To live in the midst of nature where almost nothing is man-made is to be in a primal world, something similar to the feeling of being in a womb. Perhaps we could say the womb of the same mother, Mother Nature. There's this feeling of intimacy. It feels right and it feels natural to be in nature here. There's no feeling of loneliness or isolation as you might expect. And those of you who've done a lot of camping know this feeling as well. It's like when you just walk off into the forest on your own, then stop, look up at the sky or down at the ferns around an old tree. Everything feels right. Everything feels in harmony. In nature there is blending. There's a merging. Everything just fits. In a cave, a forest, or a desert, we don't bump into right angles or straight lines or flat, hard edges, nor do we encounter concrete blocks or plastic doors. Everything fits together more as a mosaic or a mandala than as a set of building blocks or an erector set. To live here, one doesn't so much have to adapt in the way that we do, say, in a modern building. Things are as they are. We need only learn to enter into it, to become a part of it, to yield to it. I personally am impressed and amazed by the incredible intentionality which pushes out these forms. Forms like this one, and forms like the one you're wearing. You know we're embodied creatures, don't you? We're one sort in a system in which there are all sorts of different manifestations in different forms, different faces and different shapes in the sentient world of men and women, animals, bugs, insects, and the plant life realm. We're enclosed, we're locked into a system which has over 3 million known different forms, different species on this planet, just at least 3 million that we know. Each of them represents a particular strategy designed to enhance the possibility for survival and evolution in this particular planet, on this earth. This form, and your form, and my cameraman's form, we're all manifestations of the forms pushed out by nature through an energy we call kamma, or karma. The intelligence of this intentionality which temporarily pushes out form into this world is known as kamma. Here in the stalactites and the stalagmites, we can see all we need to know, all we need to realize. Well, what could I be pointing to when I make a statement like that? Well, what I'm saying is that we see anything in a full, a whole, and a direct way, in a manner in which we're fathoming what we're looking at. We're seeing the essence, we're coming to the roots, not just the ordinary kind of superficial and surface kind of looking. If we look in that way, in that mature manner, a subtle, special understanding evolves, similar in kind to what we might have if we were reading the Tao Te Ching or the I Ching or our favorite mystical poetry on a cool winter Sunday morning. Something special, some special, profound way of seeing opens up. We see the world in a totally new way, in a fresh, a simple, and a whole way. And then this fascinating, intriguing world which is set before us just opens up, and we see things without the proliferations, without our hopes, without our anxieties, without our fears. We see things as it is before we added all these extra ingredients and compounded and made our life complex. And the world returns to its original thingness, or its no-thing specialness. So that's what I mean when I say if we look at these and we see these in the proper, full way, we come to see their essence, to know them for what they are. Notice the spaces here. We can see spaces everywhere if we look carefully. But the thing is, we don't normally look at spaces. We're so heavily conditioned to look only at forms that we overlook the spaces. But spaces actually are almost all there is. The world is empty, but for a bit of temporary form here and there. And actually that form is quite empty also. But it certainly appears to be different. So in a natural setting, we can revise the way we look out. We look out into the world. We can turn our attention to the spaces, the minute permutations between things, the patterns and cycles in nature. This is a new way to look, and a much better one. By bringing our attention to the spaces between things, like this, in this kind of way, in this fashion, we're able to break the dominating authority of the familiar, which then goes on and fashions the world into a distorted reality. It's mostly a culturally contrived reality, a personal, private reality. And we become, we might say, a cult of one. As we explore the spaces between things, the mind clears and we experience what I call the ah of nature. This is just from letting go of the things that are clinging to the mind, which fasten themselves to our mind. The eyes brighten, and our jaws relax, and the sound ah gently oozes out of the heart. This isn't a vocal sound, it's the sound of the non-analytical consciousness. And when this ah-ness is present, we realize our true relationship to all the different phenomena in the world. That relationship is always the same. It's symbiotic, whole, and harmonious.